So I'm hoping everybody here can see the agenda. I'm trying to share screen. Hopefully it'll be clear. Is that large enough for everyone to see? Yeah, okay, good. This is our agenda for today. I want to thank you, welcome you for being here today for our HIPS implementation workshop for October. Many of you, most of you were here for October 1st when we did our introduction to the work that's going on in fall semester. What you'll see here is a little bit of repeat of that, but mostly an explication of that, as that's especially going to be helpful for those who weren't with us last semester. So today we'll look at the goals of what we're all talking about in our workshop and what we hope to accomplish with it, our purpose, our tasks, and what we see as the success coming out of the workshop. We'll have a quick review of the fall work plan. We'll have a demonstration of our HIPS short course that we talked about during our October 1st meeting and some Q&A, overview of our banner HIP attributes, a demonstration of the course attribute dashboard that we've all been looking forward to, and some Q&A there, and some information really that you can bounce back to us, all of this, so that we can hear from you and get you to tell us your current thinking and what you see as ways to move forward and some things that you might see as possible issues to be addressed. So during all of this, I want to encourage everyone to jump in with questions in the chat box. We have several folks here from USG and then also Bruce Van Dahl from Bruce Van Dahl Consulting, who will help us look at the chat and monitor, and we'll get back to you on those questions sometimes during the presentation, and some of them we'll keep during the Q&A portions of the agenda. So let's see, we've got 64 folks and more coming, so we will go ahead and get started. I will give us our PowerPoint we're going to begin with, and then we will jump into the documents. I think everyone's seeing the screen okay now, hopefully not too much lag. Our workshop today, we have presenters, and I left one off of here. Jeff, you feel free to jump in on this one. Peter Berryman is not with us today. He's actually away, but he will be with us through, I guess, the magic of video. So I should have added him to this list, and we'll do that when we finish up. So me, Robert Tucker Todd, Assistant Vice Chancellor, Student Success and Completion at the USG. We'll have with us today Jeff Galley, the Associate Vice Chancellor, Faculty Development at USG, Lynn Miller, Associate Vice Chancellor, Student Enrollment Management, Denise Demese, Director, Faculty Development, and Bruce Van Dahl, the Principal of Bruce Van Dahl Consulting, and then Peter Berryman with Faculty Development, whom I'll let Jeff introduce when it comes to his time. Our goals that we discussed on the first, I want to reiterate here because it'll probably make a lot more sense to everybody involved if we all keep the big picture in mind. And the big picture here is that we want to do a transformation at scale to ensure HIPS and experiential learning includes a spectrum of efforts. And these are the ones that data and our own experience tells us will be really critical to getting a change at scale at the state. And these involve quality assurance from the beginning, effective course design and course delivery, an effective student experience, and one that translates the course design and delivery into a real student experience. Then, of course, there's always reporting on what's happened and assessment of what's happened. So those are the critical pieces we're going to stick with as we move forward today, and we're looking at for our fall plan, and then moving into spring of 2022. All of you here that are part of this presentation are our HIPS implementation faculty chosen by your provosts, folks who are recognized as leaders and groundbreakers on your campuses. And without your work in this, there's no way we could make this happen. So the whole purpose of this workshop today is to tell you a bit more about what we're doing this fall and how we can do it better together, and then also to hear from you what you think will be the things that will be most successful and appropriate for you and your campuses, and then some issues that you might have questions on or might want to help us figure out a better way of doing it. So that feedback will be an important part here today. For fall 2021, we're looking at pilot implementation and tracking of HIPs in a nutshell. We mentioned this in the October 1st meeting, but we're going to ask you to enroll in and complete new HIPs short course that Jeff Galley and Peter Berryman are going to discuss in detail today. That course, already most of you are signed up for it or in the process of being signed up for it. I have a couple of you I'm following up on to make sure that we get you signed up appropriately. But this is all happening because you're part of the USG and your faculty members, and the sign up is key to your own profile as a USG faculty member. So that's sort of the beauty of this, and you'll hear more about that from Jeff and from Peter. This semester, code course sections with HIP course attributes into the banner system, temporarily in the way you've always done it, but with the information you have here, hopefully doing it more effectively. In the future, we really want that to be with the course attribute dashboard. Develop plans to enlist faculty in the short course and the coding of course sections in banner during spring 2022. So what we're doing this semester is setting up for what we can also accomplish next semester, and I think this plan will make a lot of sense as we move forward through it. But this developing of a plan and enlisting faculty is something that we'll rely on you HIPS implementation faculty to do, because you're there on campus and can help make these appropriate choices. So the HIPS short course, again, more information in a minute. I'll go over this quickly, but we're looking at a short course, as we said, that's asynchronous and self-paced, and you will earn badges and certifications for demonstrating understanding of HIPS and applying and assessing the current HIPS implementation in your courses. And we hope this will be, I believe it will be, a valuable tool for building a system for identifying, qualifying, and coding your sections with HIPS, so that we all have a clear and very effective record on the work that's going on. And then after completing the short course, we would like to see how your teams can work with the registrar's office and your departments to code course sections that have been examined through the short course. And in this case, on your campus, your culture will help determine what it is you're doing, but our overall goal is to find a more effective and more consistent way of doing that through all of our institutions. And then developing a plan with department and registrar's office on how to scale a process for coding additional course sections across the campuses during spring 2022. We don't plan to begin using the course attribute dashboard until 2022, but it's your plan, your view of what goes on your campuses that's going to help create effective plans, so that through your departments, through champions that you know on campus, and through the registrar's office, we can vet and hopefully work with a plan to do a more effective job of showing the work that we're all doing. And then there's a plan that we're going to ask you. This is sort of you might call the final deliverable in a way for this semester. We want to hear your evaluation of how enrolling faculty in the short course and the process for coding courses can be scaled at your institution. What are your thoughts on how that can be done? What are your thoughts on what the barriers will be, and what you could use as low-hanging fruit or ways to get this jump started? Setting targets for the number of faculty to participate in short courses and a number of course sections to be coded into Banner during spring 2022. There might be one department you want to focus on. You may have a group of champions that you work with, but nevertheless, we want to see a reasonable chunk, which is an attainable goal. It could be simply your department, for example, will use the information learned in the short course and apply that to your plan for coding into Banner during spring 2022. And identifying faculty in a college department or otherwise to pilot the process during spring. You probably have a really good idea of some of the folks that can help make this a reality, and we want to hear from you what that is. And then this plan will be one that the provost wants to see, but also the system office. It's not meant to be a tome, something lengthy and onerous. We're looking for brief and clear. And I think the latest date we could probably receive that would be December 3rd. So that's what we're going to look at as a date to receive those plans from you. And of course, we'll be here to answer questions on those plans as you go forward. Any questions before I'm going to pull this up for a second, see everybody who's attending, and before I do just a couple of minutes on the Banner attributes and refreshing us on what those are all about. Any questions here about our beginning?
So Robert, there's a couple of questions. This is Bruce. One is, are people getting an email communication that they've been registered for the course? How do they know, or what will be coming to them so they can actually enter the platform?
And Jeff Galley will be the guy to address this, and I'll let him do that in a sec. But I know that Peter Berryman is working to do that now. So I imagine that they will receive information that they've been registered. But Jeff, maybe you could speak to that quickly. Maybe you know better than I do.
Sure. Peter is actually on vacation this week, and so he's planned the kickoff email for Monday the 18th. That was going to be my first talking point, so I'll probably repeat myself in a few seconds, but we're going to take care of that, and it will begin on Monday the 18th.
Excellent.
And then there's...
We will copy today's PowerPoint, by the way. I saw that one. Go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
Then there's a question trying to understand sort of how the short course and the Banner attribute work actually works together. And so I think I'd be happy to jump in on that. I mean, I think the idea here is that, as Robert demonstrated with the quality assurance, one of the vehicles to establish a minimum level of quality is to have your faculty, who will ultimately be coding their courses in Banner, to use the course as a way to either design and or review their existing application of HIPS in their existing courses as a way to establish some minimal sort of standard across your institution. It's ultimately up to your own institution to decide how you determine that what's entered into the coded into the system is of quality, but we've built something that is an initial tool for you, which is the course. And so the idea here is to encourage both you and then ultimately your colleagues to go through the course as a way to sort of evaluate and or prepare their own courses for ultimately being coded in the system, if that answers the question appropriately.
And I will show you now, just very briefly, because we're going to be way off of the agenda if I do not make this relatively quick. I am going to show you some information on what those attributes are. You saw that link. I'm going to send that to you in the PowerPoint today after we're finished. And you also received a similar link at the October 1st workshop. This is the OneDrive that contains all of that good information on what are the attributes, what are the key elements for HIPS, the principles and key elements, and all of that information relating to the summary and the specifics of the Banner attributes. So I'm just going to show you a quick summary. I won't go into all of them because it could really, we could do this as a separate piece of work. And we actually did do a lot of this during the spring, thanks to our LEAP partners and to our folks in faculty development assisting. Hopefully you're seeing right now the summary changes to existing data element request form, correct? I mean, my screen's still showing okay. I always want to check. Just a head nod from someone would be good. Head nod, yeah, okay. So the summary changes. Throughout Banner, some of you are aware of attributes like low cost, no cost textbooks, and well, that's a good example, low cost, no cost textbooks. Well, we added attributes in the last couple of years due to work that we did with the Lumina Foundation and the National Association of System Heads, and some of you were leaders in this. I want to thank you again. All of this that you're going to see, all of this work has been through layers of faculty discussion and faculty recommendations. But we came up with codes that could help us as we are moving through our Banner attribute coding to capture the real work we're doing here, because a lot of high impact practices simply weren't being captured, or if they were, it was very catch as catch can. And if a faculty member left or went to another department or whatever, oftentimes it was falling aside and you couldn't compare data from year to year. It was very different, or you couldn't compare data. That even one instructor had coded, because it was being looked at differently without a good review process and without good definitions. So we've created some in that OneDrive folder that I've linked you to. You should all be able to view it. Some documents that tell you everything about those particular definitions for attributes. This is a summary page that tells you that these are the kinds of codes we're going to use. There's the ZHIR, and you don't need to remember that. Lynn Williams will tell you you don't. The course meets a high impact requirement established by the institution, because it's your institution that's actually making the final definitions. We're helping, we hope, with some consistency in those definitions, but we realize that that needs to reside with the institution itself. And in some cases, there's a linked code. There may be other linked courses, so we placed a code there. This was by demand of faculty widely, that we could tag a course that was linked to another high impact practice or something else within your department or your course sections. And then more specifically, looking at some of the 11 HIPs, I'll only look at a couple here because we'll run out of time. But say service learning, which is one of those experiential HIPs that we really need to do some focus on, partly because of our strategic plan for the USG. There is note a code for, does this course meet the institution's criteria as a high impact practice for service learning? And then if it does, then you have contact hour codes. And in this case, sometimes you can answer these well, sometimes there may be certain cases where you cannot answer this, in which case it can be left blank. But in many cases for service learning, you can definitely answer whether it's 51 or more hours of service or whether it was 10 or less hours of service. And the codes all help you do that. You'll see a similarity with undergraduate research. I'm just scrolling up to here. Again, does it meet your high impact practice definitions? And then what are the contact hours? There are some that are a little bit different. For example, I will tell you, I mentioned the global learning piece. So with global learning, you will see there's a little more going on. Is it study abroad or is it study away? And the definition there is one that we can assist you with. But essentially, it's whether the location is substantially within the U.S. and the other one is if it is some other region or some place outside the U.S. for the most part. And then we have supplementary code. So that's the most complicated one. But even there, it's usually very easy to decide which code is appropriate. So most of these meet the undergraduate research, for example, approach. Now, beyond that, though, I'm going to show you an example of a little more detail you'll find in that OneDrive. So these are the documents for each specific HIP, and Georgia Best, and I want to thank Georgia Best and the team, and some of Georgia Best is here with us today to help answer questions, for helping make this a reality. We have some very good definitions for how these attributes work. And there's information from the beginning on what is a high impact practice and what are the guidelines. But the thing I want to point out today is characteristics. And each one of these will have the same format. So this is undergraduate research. And here there is some assistance with what are the definitions of what makes for a good practice. So these are the documents that we have from Georgia Best that help us with our business work and coding into Banner, and with our bullet points, you'll see some of the assistance in making those decisions. I have to emphasize, however, that the short course that we're talking about is going to give you a lot more about this. And since I'm already a little bit over here, I want to give Jeff Galley a chance to speak about that and tell us some about what the short course is going to do and how it can pull a lot of this together, which might help answer that question we got just a couple of minutes ago. Jeff, if you're not a presenter, I'll make you one here. Are you already a presenter?
I know I'm unmuted and I'm ready to go. Okay.
All right. Let's see if you have what you need, and if not, then I will work here.
Okay. Well, let me make a couple of points first while I'm on camera before I share screen. So the frame for this is the work of Peter Berryman, our director of digital instruction, who has been working on this USG platform. And we're about to unveil the platform. We have 6 courses, 3 pillars. You'll see in the short course, the beta course that I'm about to show the 8-minute video for you. This platform hopefully will connect faculty to a number of CETL created, pedagogically created, evidence-based practices that are going to be offered across the USG to all faculty. We've begun with a target of 8 and we've completed 6. And so what we want to invite the HIPS implementation leaders to participate in is to become beta reviewers of the first course, which is the HIPS short course. Okay? And so having taught the memoir, literary criticism, all kinds of English literary courses using service learning or undergrad research or a number of other high impact practices, I learned a long time ago that some high impact practices seem to have more impact than others. And what that traces to is the development of what AAC&U calls the 8 elements, the 8 essential elements. And so what we thought of as the format for this first course, which you're about to see the beta version of, is to focus first on these 8 elements. Things like performance expectations, significant investment of time and effort, experiences with diversity, feedback, faculty, student interaction. A number of these are already figured into the good courses that we already offer. These are best practices. And we want to introduce these again with a view to those 11 high impact practices. So down the road, and I'll say this later today, down the road, we will have more high impact practices specific to a specific like service learning. But for this first course, we wanted to focus on teaching practices. All right, so with that, I'm going to hopefully share screen. Let's see.
You are now indeed a presenter, so hopefully that'll work smoothly.
Oh, it looks like it's working. I'm going to find the, I've got to include computer sound or you won't hear a thing. Okay, I've done that. Let's see. I see my PowerPoint, documents 1 and 2, join conversation, the calendar. I do not see my HIPS momentum. Hold up. Let me see if I don't see the YouTube video. Let me see if this will work. Joey and I, my wife, practiced this before and it worked great. Okay, so let's try again.
We all practiced, I can promise you.
Yeah, so on my top tab, I have 5 things open, and the first was the email. And so let's see if I'm going to get that choice. Here we go. Okay. All right. I had to get the tab on that particular one. Tell me if you see what looks like YouTube. And I will enlarge. Okay, great. All right. So I'm going to enlarge. You will hear the voice of Peter Berryman, and here we go. I'll try not to stop this and comment. I will listen to him along with you all and then take questions for about 5 or 6 minutes at the end.
Hello, and welcome to the beta test for Momentum U at USG. Momentum U at USG is an online virtual platform managed by the University System of Georgia's Office of Faculty Development. We're excited to make our beta test of Momentum U and the first of our short courses available to a select group of beta testers. Momentum U at USG is a virtual and collaborative learning space for USG faculty and staff, supporting best practice for engaging our students. Content and events on the platform are organized by 3 pillars, and we're excited to open the first pillar, transformative teaching practices with our first set of short courses. Once you are enrolled in Momentum U at USG, you will receive an email and a direct link to the platform. We're using a single sign-on protocol to authenticate faculty and staff. Only the link can be used to access the online platform. You'll need to enter your university system credentials as well as confirm your identity through an authentication process. Here's an example of the two-step process in place for the University System Office. Yours may be a bit different. After logging in, you'll be placed in an instance of Desire to Learn, a learning management system, with links to Momentum U at USG and the course in which you have been enrolled. In this presentation, we'll take a quick tour of a short course to help you understand how the instruction is organized and how you can help us improve the quality of the course. We're using the short course High Impact Practices as an example for this presentation, but your course will be very similar in navigation, organization, and expectations. Select your beta course to begin the instruction. The short courses are self-paced, asynchronous, and fully online. Since the content and learning activities were designed to be completed as independent studies, no facilitator is present. To that end, the content and the instruction must be well written with clarity and precision. We hope that beta testers will help us to improve the quality of our short courses with corrections, suggestions, and their comments. The online content for these courses was designed to be consumed in 120 minutes or less. Online activities include reading and watching. Activities or assignments to be completed offline in your classrooms may take between 2 weeks and 6 weeks, depending upon how you decide to apply the course topic to your classroom. To begin, review the course orientation announcement and proceed to the Getting Started module. You may use the content link at the top or the Getting Started link in the content browser. Content for our short courses is arranged to be completed sequentially by reviewing each learning module or unit of instruction, beginning with the Getting Started module and ending with the Wrap-Up module. The Getting Started module provides guidance for helping you to begin the course, while the Wrap-Up module will help guide you through the final tasks to complete the course. Instructional content and activities are distributed between these two modules. For the High Impact Practices beta course, the instructional modules are named Foundational Knowledge and Application and Analysis. Instruction for the short courses is organized using Bloom's taxonomy, a hierarchy of knowledge mastery often used to help educators write learning objectives. In the foundational level modules, you, the learner, will demonstrate the ability to remember and understand knowledge by completing one or more quizzes. Scores of 85% or better are required to demonstrate the appropriate level of mastery for Remember and Understand, the first two levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Meeting these expectations awards a bronze level badge of mastery for the course. Continue to navigate through the course content using the links on the left. You can also use the modules to jump to the page of your choice. All content is web-based and optimized to be used on large computer screens or on a cell phone. After completing bronze level criteria, learners continue to the Application and Analysis module to demonstrate the ability to apply and analyze. Bloom's mid-level mastery for using knowledge. This is also where the short course goes offline for a while, as you, now in the role of instructor, apply the short course pedagogy to a live classroom environment for anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks. After applying and practicing the pedagogy in your classroom, face-to-face or online, you'll report your observations of how the application of the pedagogy impacted student learning back to the short course using a built-in course survey. Completing these tasks awards a silver level badge of achievement. If the instruction is not clear or if you need assistance with the technology, please use the Momentum U support link to submit an instructional or technical support request. The Office of Faculty Development will respond as soon as possible, but we might defer some content-related questions to the course author. Please be patient while we process your request. We hope to resolve all within 72 hours. While we hope the impact of the applied pedagogy upon your students will be observable and positive, keep in mind this is practice, and you might not immediately get the results you anticipated. This is okay. In fact, it is to be expected. What you learn from your first experience applying a strategy, like the elements of high-impact practices, we hope you continue to apply and practice because these are proven teaching strategies that support student success. And with repeated application, you'll see the improvements in your students and in your classes. For successfully completing a learning module and its learning objectives, you'll receive a digital award. For the short courses, you can earn a bronze badge for remembering and understanding course knowledge, a silver badge for applying and analyzing course knowledge, and a certificate of completion for finishing all course tasks, including an end-of-course survey. The awards can be downloaded as digital files, shared to social media, or printed for inclusion in teaching portfolios. Since good course design often comes down to small details, let's talk about feedback. While we hope our short courses are amazing and error-free, that's not likely to be the case, and we value your observations on the design and delivery of the short course in which you are enrolled. At the bottom of each page is a beta feedback link. Please use it whenever you would like to submit a correction, a suggestion, or a new idea for the page. At the end of the course, you'll also have an opportunity to complete a 5-minute course survey. Thank you again for participating in the beta test for Momentum U at USG and our short courses. We hope you and your students will benefit this semester from the courses and the application of proven pedagogies for engaging students and promoting their success. If you have an issue logging into your short course, please let me know. Requests for technical or instructional support from within the course will also be sent through to me.
Okay. All right, let me go. I will stop sharing there and go back to camera. That's a lot of information in 7 minutes or 8. We hoped that he would be able to do this overview for all of the courses that we have developed. And I think he did a good job with that. And what he just said in those 7 or 8 minutes applies to the entire platform. So this is a first step. It's not the HIT short course, but it's what you will find within the platform as you enroll on Monday, important date, the 18th. You will receive an email with instructions from Peter on how to enroll in the platform. The HIT short course, as I described before his video, that gave an overview of the platform courses, is focused on the broadest possible framework for enriching any high impact practice. So we started with, I say we, Carl Oldenburg of University of North Georgia did the work here. As a matter of fact, if I have a minute, I'll say that Carl, Rod McRae, Amy Austin, Laura Carruth, Nancy Linden, Kokila, Hillary Steiner, Mandy McGrew were authors that we enlisted and put in a lot of hours to produce these courses. And so we have the authors, we have Peter is the digital guru, and then the OFD and the CEDLs are the resources behind the scenes that will further develop more courses and offer them through the platform as well. So the 18th is the important date, and I know you may have some questions. I think 1:35 was when I was supposed to end. I'm not sure if Robert has flipped the agenda a little bit here. So I may have less time. I may have some time. I'm not sure. Robert, it's up to you. That's what I have.
Wow, that's a lot of power there. But actually, I do want you to answer some more questions because I feel like it was important to show some of those attributes beforehand, so we had some discussion on them and kind of awareness. So I can truncate that a bit as we're going forward. So why don't you take another 5 minutes or so and do some Q&A if you'd like, Jeff.
I'm open and listening. later today, Denise Domezi, whom the Director of Faculty Development, will facilitate an exercise activity that focuses on a couple of the 8 elements and how you may already be using them in your course, because that's the conversation we wanted to begin with. And then the HIPS course will focus on those 8 elements, and then succeeding high impact practices will specifically become enriched and have courses on each of them and what these might look like. So you see where we're going with this. We're doing other pedagogies like inclusion. Rod and group did transparency in learning and teaching. We have a small teaching short course, Jim Lang's work. Many of you, if you're CLSs, Chancellor's Learning Scholars, you know from the books that Lang has written on distraction, on small teaching, on developing your syllabus, that he is one we've really come to rely on a great deal. So this is the platform. The course you'll begin on Monday as you wish, as you enroll, and I think he's going to keep open this particular beta version testing for a full month until, or maybe even longer. It's October the 18th through the end of November or the beginning of December. So he'll specify a close date, and you'll be reminded, let's get this done if you haven't finished it.
And waiting to see if there's any other question. I want to say, repeat that what you have that on the 18th, you may take this immediately. And there was a question about also reaching out to others. We'd love for you to do this, because if we can reach out to others, we can get more, obviously more good information out there to all of your partners and fellow champions for high impact practices. But in addition, that gives us more feedback on the courses. So that's part of when we mentioned we want you to then pass this on so that it grows. You could do that immediately. Now, at the end of the period, December 3rd is the date that we've set. That's when you need to have the draft plan from you for how you think you can do this going into spring. Any other questions for Jeff?
So Robert and Jeff, I just want to jump in. There's a couple of questions in the chat about people asking, first of all, a couple of things. First was, when can they open this up to their colleagues? It sounds like you are open to having others join in if you'd like to the beta test. Is that true? But in terms of formally rolling it out to your colleagues, the plan is beginning in the spring to have a plan in place for how you're going to sort of begin to scale this work. But it looks like, is it true that people, if they want to join in the beta test, you could include others? Is that fair to say?
I can answer that. I think the plan is we want feedback from a limited number. This is over 100 people in the HIPS implementation group, and we have some Chancellor's Learning Scholars who will be beta testers of other pedagogies, the small teaching course, for example. So what he would like to do is not be overwhelmed with thousands. We have 12,000 faculty in the USG, but shortly, once he's received and incorporated all of the feedback. So people who are doing these courses are going to receive the same certificates, badges, and awards: bronze for, recall, silver for apply and analyze, gold. No one asked me about the gold. I thought somebody would see that, but we haven't decided what the gold is going to be yet. So Robert?
Ask about the gold, just FYI, I saw it pop up in the chat.
Well, we have a number of possibilities. My preference is to author scholarship. So I was thinking that would be the best way to go, but it might not be. It might be there's something else that we can do to develop leadership in these pedagogies. And so what would that look like? There's still another level that we can define and place in here for further recognition. So Bruce, I may not have answered your question clearly. This is very dynamic. The idea is have a limited number, 100, 200 people. And then in the spring, once Peter has had a chance to incorporate all of these suggestions, to open that up and encourage the groups across the USG institutions to take the course. Then it'll become the course instead of beta.
Okay, so yeah, I think it sounds like we want you to focus on taking and engaging the course this fall with the goal of, based on your experience and what you saw and the value that it presented, and the work ahead in terms of engaging your colleagues to develop a plan that says, okay, here's this course. It's a great tool. How is it that we're going to use it as a way to build awareness and to engage our colleagues to get some fundamental training on what HIPs are and how to begin to apply them in their courses? And I think another key question was sort of, how does the flow of this work? One thing to think about is obviously, yeah, your faculty are planning their courses for the spring already. So having them take the course in the middle of the spring, how does that work? That's something to think through yourselves. But one way of looking at this is, well, maybe there's already faculty that you feel like are already employing these practices in their courses. And then it would ask them to be a part of the course in the spring and to evaluate their courses. So if they think they're doing service learning in a course, we'll have them take the course and evaluate the practices that they're already deploying against the criteria and the content in the course. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about this. But the bottom line is it's really up to you to decide how to best leverage these tools to your advantage and to help you move the conversation forward on your campuses.
Very well said. Matter of fact, there's a question that just came up here that I could use to bounce off. Are there any others for Jeff at the moment? You'll have a chance to get back to Jeff and Denise Demese before we're finished. There are new questions coming in, but there's one I want to tag off of here, and it is, will the course help a faculty member qualify their course as to the level attributes that will show in Banner? And that's an interesting question, and that leads me to something that I would like to talk about for a couple minutes, and then give you a chance to do another Q&A. So let me do that. Thank you, Jeff. We're going to be back with you very shortly. Everybody's seeing high impact educational practices there from my shared screen. Bruce, can you give me a head nod? Yep, got it. You know, I never trust until I know that it's there. So these are the 11 high impact educational practices that we're following per AAC&U. And of course, there are some that we've discussed in detail are our primary foci is experiential learning. But something I wanted to point out here is, you know, in tandem with Jeff's comments about the course, the key elements that are part of high impact practices, genuine high impact practices. In the course, you should see information that is going to help you understand if your efforts, what you have planned, what you have designed, actually is something that contains these elements and examples. So yes, I would say that short course is going to help you understand what will be an effective HIP and what will not be an effective HIP, and that will help you make a decision, I think, whether you're evaluating a current high impact practice that you've been teaching, or whether you're creating a new one, whether it's going to be in spring or maybe it's going to be fall next year. The short course should help you do that, partially by its focus on the kinds of principles that are really inherent in effective HIPs. I showed you another document a little while ago to bring that down to another level of detail. Here I'm going to show the service learning definitions according to our official Georgia Best information. And you'll see in the characteristics of service learning here, and I'm going to highlight this, hopefully you'll be able to see it. You'll see there's a lot that is consonant between those 8 principles that I just shared, along with this definition here. And this should be the case in all of those documents that we are sharing on the high impact practices. So direct experience, ongoing efforts to analyze and solve problems, performance expectations that are set at the proper levels. Experience and diversity is an important one for us, because one word we haven't used here yet is equity. And I think diversity and equity, we have to recall, are important to all of our efforts with HIPs. We want to make sure that these are HIPs for everybody and not just for those people who are privileged. to be able to, to have more leeway in their choice of school or their choice of department, or in the resources necessary to, say, do a study abroad. But periodic structured opportunities to integrate and reflect on learning, you'll see here that there is definitely a connection between the information that is going into the short course. So this is just one example from service learning, but I think that these issues here will help you understand how the short course can assist with that.
Robert, I just want to let you know, I don't think we're seeing your screen right now.
Oh man, no. Let me try that again.
So it sort of dropped off. Sorry.
No, that's good. I'm glad you told me. Let's try it again. How about now?
Yes, great.
Got it. Sorry about that, folks. I clicked the button, but whatever. I don't click well. Maybe it's something I need to practice. But what I was referring to here were these documents. One, the 8 key elements. Did you see those before when I was talking? Okay. These are key elements and examples of high impact practices from AAC&U. And as I was saying, these are the kinds of things that you will definitely find that our courses are going to treat, because these are key elements for effective HIPs. And you will see here interactions with faculty and peers, constructive feedback, frequent and timely experiences with diversity. You'll see reflection here, integration of learning. And then I was relating that to a specific HIP, which is our service learning. And here I've highlighted information you can see is referred back to those key elements. So if you go to those definitions for each one of the HIPs, let's say you're doing a service learning course, you'll want to bring up this document, which is our service learning courses is high impact practice for inclusion and Banner on the OneDrive. And these bullet points here will help you understand when a course is really an effective HIP and when it is perhaps not. If, for example, reflection and timely and constructive feedback isn't included, then maybe you need to consider that needs to be changed in the course before you actually, consider it to be a HIP. The point here is that the course itself, the short course, our information that we're using as reference from AAC&U and other entities, and our own definitions, such as these here in Georgia Best and for the USG as a whole, really are one effort to present the key principles and the key factors that make a HIP a HIP. Before I go on, any other questions on that? Because I'd like to take a couple about how what you're doing might actually be or not be a HIP that's appropriate for evaluation or inclusion, and see if you have anything you need to ask me now. I like it. It looks like everything's been explained. Either that or we're talking enough here that you've all decided it's Friday afternoon. I'm not sure which. But I will say, Jeff, did you have any comment on that? Because of all the work going into the course, I think it is fair to say that the resources that we're sharing with those definitions and the key principles and elements all support each other.
Yeah, I think it's built up. So once they begin the course or take the course, then a lot of the connections between best practices and enriching high impact practices become clear, because they're working with these foundational practices. So and many of these leaders in the room already know this. So this is just kind of like an FYI for how we structured the platform. Rather than start with a service learning course, we started with pedagogy. And so the 8 courses that we've created, 6 of which are complete, are focused on those pedagogies that were anchored in the Chancellor's Learning Scholars Program. And high impact practices was the initial impetus for the Chancellor's Learning Scholars Program. And as I began to talk to folks running the teaching centers, I thought, maybe there's a good way to think about foundational practices from the discipline to the classroom to student experience. And so the way we've structured our Chancellor's Learning Scholars program is in those contexts, with assessment over here too as a fourth context. And what we want to do is to offer courses that allow faculty to explore foundational best practices connected to your discipline that go to the classroom, engage all kinds of students in meaningful ways, and then challenge them to connect your content, your course content, to the experience that they have in the service learning, the internship, etc., any of the 11. So all of this is founded on best practices. The first course is that, and then eventually, as you are already leading these communities of practice, you'll have other courses that will become available in the platform. So all of this has to be beta tested. It's iterative. We have to make it good, make it better. And then each time we'll return 1.0, 2.0, and then they'll have this moment when we go, oh, you know what we need? And then it'll just become clear. We'll see what's going to happen. And with your leadership, response, feedback, and your faculty, this platform can really be like a really major stopping point for faculty who are new, who are mid-career. Okay, I'm starting to talk about mid-career. Stop me, Robert. I'm going too long. That's the idea. The structure is experiential from your degree through your initial years, through development of best practices with a view to high impact practices and student learning.
It was very well said. And as you remember the first slide that I showed discussing quality assurance all the way to sort of the end of the process. Well, it's not the end of the process. The process just keeps going in an iterative fashion. But what we're doing here, and one more little effort to put this in perspective, because for those who were not here on October 1st in particular, we're the only folks doing this in the country. This is something that is on the forefront. You can expect to have a lot of attention in the future to what we're doing here, because the attempt to do this at scale is unique. So, I think the big idea actually is relatively simple, and it's easy to follow once you start moving down that road. But you're going to have opportunities, and as I mentioned previously, you're going to have opportunities at our Momentum Summit, for example, to showcase that work. So in addition to getting prepared for spring, you will definitely also have those opportunities. I want to go back for just 1 second and remind everyone, I'm going to send this out again. You should be seeing the screen share again. And there's a link, and you'll get that again. And this is the OneDrive where all this material is available. We're also going to make this available through a web platform very soon. But at the moment, the OneDrive is a very clean and easy way to share all of this. So all of those 11 individual definitions for HIPs and how they relate to banner attributes are in there, like the service learning and work-based learning I showed you. But in addition, summaries of that, and in addition, those 8 key principles for HIPs that you'll find inherent in the course. It's all there.
Robert and Jeff, this is Bruce again. Is it okay to share the link to Peter's video as well with everybody? Is that okay to have others have access to that so they can review it again if they want to?
It's a YouTube video. Yeah, sure. I don't see a problem with that. I don't want to mislead people into thinking that everyone will have automatic access into the beta group, because you'll see, he'll be writing everyone the email with that other invitation to join the beta group. So I don't want to I know that if it says write Peter Berryman and he gets 1,100 emails on Tuesday morning, he's going to be calling me.
So I dropped it in the chat, but use it discreetly.
It's just this is all beta. We're testing it through your help and ideas, and then in January it'll all be open wide.
Everything else that we've done is included in the Complete College Georgia video archive, which is also going to be linked again in what I send you after this message, but was linked in the October 1st workshop as well. And there you can see all the work that we did through LEAP Georgia, faculty development, our HIPS teams during last spring. This one I did not place in there because I knew it might give folks the idea that, or I'm not planning on placing there, might give them the idea, oh yeah, I need to jump into this test, and we don't want to do that just now. All right, any other questions there before we move onward? Oh, there we got the link again. And I want to thank again Peter Berryman, the Director of Faculty Development for Digital Instruction at USG. That was an excellent video, and I'll give him a round of applause that he'll get once he comes back from vacation. So there you go. Next on our list here, I don't think we have immediately any more Q&A on those attributes for Banner and how we're going to incorporate them into the whole process. But what we do need to do is turn this over to Lynn Miller, who is going to speak with us about the course attribute dashboard. And that is another one of the critical tools that I think are going to help us make this transformation at scale, not only unique in the country, but something that is going to be a particularly powerful change in Georgia, and again a unique way of doing our work that I think we can use to move forward into just a new realm of how we treat HIPs in an equitable fashion, and how we make those HIPs intrinsic in the pathways that we're creating for students going forward. Lynn, you are our presenter, so I think you can probably take control at this point and guide us on that course attribute dashboard, right? What do you think?
I think that's the plan. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully I do remember how to do it. It didn't work, did it?
Not yet. Let's see.
It should. I did PowerPoint. I did present in Teams, and it says it's loading. Can you hear it? See it now?
There it is.
We got it.
Very good.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. I'm gonna go off camera because I'm very animated when I present, and it's distracting. So I'm gonna go off camera, and you should still be able to hear me. What I'm gonna do today is just review the course attribute dashboard, which is a tool that's really been designed to facilitate your ability to request that a course attribute be applied to a section that you are teaching via a workflow and then added directly in Banner. I do want to just briefly mention the initiative focus, which is to improve efficiencies for faculty and staff so that you can create high quality, consistent data that's related to the assignment of these USG and campus course attributes. And I do want to point out that while the initial development effort was because of all of this great HIPS work, this dashboard will let you request an attribute for no cost, low cost, study abroad, or any other institutional attributes that are assigned to courses. This tool will also provide, it's configurable and streamlined so that faculty and staff can initiate, approve, and review these requests to assign attributes. I think that's really the highlight and the hallmark of this new solution. Just so you know, it's a tool that can be used in tandem with your current process. My last tour of duty on campus was at Georgia Gwinnett, and the process there to get an attribute added to a course often varied by department, but typically an email landed in the registrar's Outlook inbox, and then the attribute would be added. So, you know, as you think about how you're going to request attributes, just remember you'll probably still be using your current process until the CAD is implemented at your institution. I'm sure you all know who your college registrar is. I've been in front of them now 6 times, I believe, just reviewing this course attribute dashboard so that they're aware of the work that's going on in your space and are ready to hear from you. On that note, implementation of this course attribute dashboard is a partnership between the academic affairs side of the house and the operations side of the house, aka the registrar, because typically they're the group that manages course attributes. And another thing, I know you're all familiar with lovely Banner 8 faculty self-service, where you go see your roster, and probably some of you are already using the Banner 9 faculty self-service interface. For now, the solution is built in Banner 8 self-service, and I'm going to demo this to you in a moment, and you'll see it on the faculty services menu or tab. And at some of your campuses, that tab has been renamed or rebranded. But wherever you go in Banner self-service to look at student information is where you would find the course attribute dashboard link. And I do want to mention that if you are already using Banner 9 faculty self-service, your institution can easily link back to the course attribute dashboard, which is still currently in the Banner 8 self-service platform. I'm going to show you in just a minute. One thing that has been asked repeatedly is, can we put some information text on this page? So, you know, all of the rubrics that are used to determine whether a course is HIP eligible for an attribute related to HIPs, or study abroad, or no cost, low cost, there will be a space on the page, and you'll see that in a moment, where your institution can put in a URL and link out to information that will help faculty and staff make informed choices about attributes they're going to request be placed on courses. The solution is delivered with some information text, and your registrars and your some of your academic affairs folks are already aware that they're going to have to modify that verbiage. So when the partnership happens at your campus, that's something you'll want to think about as the HIPS leaders at your institutions, specifically what kind of information you might want in a URL on that page. I don't know if you can see this very well, but there are 3 sections on the dashboard. There is a reviewer section, a maintainer section, and an approval section. And if you'll notice in this slide, I've just used a red arrow to point out where the URLs might live for any information, text, or examples that you want to link to. I increasingly added more text just so you could see that you can use a good bit of text. This is done by the person at your campus who manages Banner self-service, which is typically your Banner project lead. It could be someone in the registrar's office, but again, that's a conversation you will want to have it on your campus when you decide what you're going to do about your implementation. I mentioned this briefly. I'm going to mention it again, and then I'll show you. There are 3 unique sections on the dashboard. There's a section for reviewing courses. There's a section to maintain, and really maintaining means requesting. So keep that in mind. Maintain equals request. And then there's a section where someone has the configuration and permission to approve the request for an attribute. A lot of times I get asked, well, can you have more than one role? Could a faculty member who leads the HIP initiative request an attribute and approve attributes? Absolutely. The solution is really configurable. It's granular in nature, and it has a built-in email workflow that is really easy to set up on the back end, on the technical side. So you absolutely can have more than one role. And the 3 roles, I've mentioned them already, but I'm going to hit what they do now. Approver, maintainer, which is the requester, and the reviewer. The approver, this role is really the one that makes the decision about whether the attribute gets applied to the course. And they provide access. They can actually see courses that they have permission to approve on the dashboard. They can go into specific groups of attribute groups and approve things. And then the campus team, whoever's assigned to this role on your campus, it could be a faculty member or a department chair or department admin, or even the registrar. At some small schools, it probably will be the registrar that will make that final decision about approval. The next role is a maintainer. So this is really the one that most faculty will use, is the maintainer role. This is where you would actually go in and pick a course that you are assigned to teach, or there's also another configuration. You know, if you are someone who is going to manage HIPS holistically at your institution, you might have the ability to request attributes be added to a discipline, like, you know, political science or math. So there are two ways that it can be configured. You can only request attributes based on what you're teaching for the upcoming term, or you might have the ability to maintain attributes based on a department or a discipline. You can actually get as granular as one course, which when you have all those conversations at your institution about this implementation, those are the kinds of things you'll want to map out in the process flow and talk about ahead of time. The last role is the reviewer. This role can't take any action. They can only view courses based on their group assignment or their configurations. Typically, this role is held by someone who is need to know only, or it could be someone who's monitoring activity and checking for data integrity. And you'll see what I mean when I demo the dashboard shortly. Now this, I hope you can see this well. It's sort of busy. This is the actual workflow of what happens in the dashboard. And you'll get this slide deck after this presentation, but it's got 3 swim lanes. The top is faculty, and it tells you, you start here, you select your term, and I'm going to demonstrate all of this, so don't worry if you can't see it right now. But the second swim lane is the actual approver, which is that second role. And then the third swim lane is reviewer. So essentially, this is the process flow. This is what you would do. The first one being someone who is going to request or maintain. The second one is the approver. And the third is someone who's just reviewing. And now this is really what you want to see, which is what it looks like in the application. So I'm going to stop presenting my PowerPoint, and I'm going to share my screen. And if someone could just give me a shout out when they see my screen. Hopefully you see it.
Looks like it's there, man.
Very good. It doesn't look pretty like your institution because my test environment is at baseline banner. So you won't see any colors. I'm going to start off and log in as a reviewer. In other words, this faculty member only has the role of reviewer. So faculty services menu, this probably looks a little bit familiar to most of you. This is where you come to see your class schedule and that sort of thing in banner 8. The course attribute dashboard is going to be at the end of the menu. Your institution may move it around and put it in alphabetical order. So if you don't see it at the bottom, look around, it should be there somewhere. When you click that, of course, you're used to this. All of you are used to this. You've got to select a term, right? So I'm going to select fall 2021 and click submit. And so I don't know if any of you are Game of Thrones fans, but I am, and Robert's probably going to rib me about this. So all of my test faculty are Game of Thrones characters. So the person you see here, this is Marjorie Tyrell, who met her doom and gloom with a lot of green gunpowder. So this Marjorie only has the ability to review a course. So basically, she is someone who's just looking to see if attributes have been assigned or she's monitoring. So you might have an admin in your department do that. To drill down into that course and see more information, you just pick it, much like you do your roster, and then you just click review courses, and it just brings up the course so that you can take a look at it. And literally that is all the reviewer can do. They can't do anything else. They can't request an attribute be assigned to a course section, and they can't approve it. And if you'll notice, there are hyperlinks at the top. This is courses to review, courses to maintain, and courses to approve. And if I click on the hyperlink, Marjorie doesn't have the ability or any permission to maintain. If I go to approval, she has no ability, none, to approve any requested attribute. So that's basically what the reviewer role does. I'm going to log out and log back in as someone who is a maintainer. Going to go to that faculty services menu, course attribute dashboard, pick my term, submit, and now this is Jamie Lannister. So he actually has the ability to maintain courses. And if you'll notice, it's not, there's some back-end setup, but Jamie, I'll just tell you, Jamie has been given permission to approve not only courses that he teaches, but courses in political science where the course number is 2000 through, 2999. So I wanted to point that out because it really is granular on the backside. And at your institution, when you pull together an implementation team, you'll want to make a decision about who is going to own this technically. And I've told all the registrars this. We've actually hit this up at several meetings. We have a monthly student information system meeting for all of our stakeholders, and we've demoed this there. They're all aware of it. But this is where the rubber meets the road. I'm just going to pick this political science class right here, and I'm going to click maintain courses. I hope you guys can see this. If you'll notice right now, this course has no attributes. None have been requested or assigned. And this is the list of attributes available to this faculty member to pick from. So, and this is all set up on the backside too. These are just a sample of the attributes you could potentially give a faculty member the ability to request. I know at another institution I worked at, we used course attributes as a means of tracking, certain things. So you could even have groups of attributes for specific things you're doing at your institution that are unique. For this exercise or this demo, I'm actually going to pick which one? I think I'll pick meets HIPS requirement. This one, ZHIR, which is a general HIPS attribute. The next thing it does is it actually says here that it's been requested that this attribute be added. I'm going to go into my email and I'm just going to show you what happens after that request takes place. The first thing is the faculty member gets an email through the workflow saying you submitted a request for this, and here are the people that it'll be routed to. And so you can see these are the people that can actually approve, and it tells you their role, the description of the role, and it gives you their email address. Obviously, in my test environment, I'm emailing everything to myself, but as a faculty member, when you request an attribute, you're actually going to get an email. So you'll have evidence that you did it and that you requested it. All of the people who are approvers will also get an email, and it just says this is ready for you to review. And I'm going to log on in a minute as someone who can actually approve. But every single approver, including myself, was notified that they can approve that request for an attribute. So you see how that works. I want to also mention that you can go back and do another one, but one thing that happens just behind the scenes so that you're aware is every single transaction is assigned to a batch. It's much like banking, right? When you make deposits, they're in a batch and they get done at night and that kind of thing. Well, this is done pretty quickly once it's approved. It's actually added to the course section immediately, but these are batches. So whoever's approving has to approve the whole batch. So if there are 5 requests in batch 20, the approver would need to approve all 5 before the email workflow fires. All right, I'm going to exit and I'm going to go in now as someone who can do everything. So this is Cersei Lannister, queen of all, although I think her life ended under rubble. I'm going to go pick the term, fall 2021. I'm going to submit. And if you'll notice, Cersei can actually review courses. She can maintain courses, and she can approve courses. For this exercise, I really just want to demonstrate what happens when something's approved. And I know, because I staged all of this, that the only course in this batch 48, and if you'll notice, the approver actually sees the batch number. The requester doesn't, the approver does, and it's here on the page. So I'm going to actually pick that last course, click approve, click submit, and then the email workflow will be launched, hopefully. Yep, here it comes. So the first thing that happens is it tells the approver that she approved it. It tells the faculty member who requested it that it's been approved. So it's pretty robust. The email workflow behind it really does give you all the information you need to know as far as what has been approved. Another thing I'm going to do this just so you can see what happens. Like this course here, accounting, there are two other options for an approver. They can actually deny the request for an attribute, or they can send it back. So I'm going to pick this one here, and hopefully I got all my batch numbers straight, and I'm going to deny it, and I'm going to pin in a comment, and I'm going to click submit. Well, you know, anytime you do something live, there's going to be a problem, right? That's Murphy's Law. For whatever reason, it has decided to spin. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my email and see if it generated anything. Oh, it did. Okay. So here is Jamie Lannister. He asked Cersei to approve the addition of that attribute, and she denied it. So if you are denied, it'll come back and they'll say something like, that attribute doesn't match this course, or, you know, I think the key component here is that you make sure that the person approving understands the methodology behind your course and what high impact practice or any other attribute set is aligned to your course. That's basically it. It's really easy to use. It's very intuitive. I think, you know, especially the email component makes it easy to follow. You know, you don't forget that you've requested it because you're going to get an email, and as soon as it's approved, you're going to be notified. And that is all I have for you guys today. I'm going to pop back over to my PowerPoint really quickly. Well, and I just wanted to give you my contact information so that when you and your campus start to talk about your CAD implementation, you can actually reach out to me. And I believe Cindy Taylor is on the call, or I think I saw Cindy on the call just a moment ago. And I have to say, Cindy, in my opinion, Cindy Taylor with Georgia Best, who is a business analyst, is the brains behind this. And she, honest to goodness, tested this like nobody's business and has really done a good job thinking through what a faculty member needs and what they would need to have the ability to do. I appreciate your time today. Robert, is there anything else you want me to cover or speak to?
Well, I would like to know more about the whole Lannister family doings and how denying that request is going to settle, you know, with Jamie, but I won't get into that right now. So I do want to make sure we have a little bit of time for Q&A. There were some questions that came in for you, Lynn, while you were speaking, and I'm going to try to pop over to those now.
I see. Okay. So I just want to, the difference between deny and send back. Very good question. Deny is, no, nada. Send back is, oh, I have a question, right? So there are really three things an approver will do. They will approve it, send it back just to feel you out, get some, you know, get an answer to a question, and then they'll approve it if, you know, after that dialogue. And then, you know, denial is no. So you want to be sure your approver is someone that understands the work you're doing. Just my opinion. And what was the other? So once it's approved.
Well, there's a follow-up to that one. What if the deny, will we get an explanation if it's denied?
Yes, they type in a comment. You probably couldn't see this very well, but when I denied Jamie's request, I said it was because I was the queen, right? So you, hopefully your registrar or whoever you appoint to be the approver will not send you that kind of message, but that is what will happen. They'll get an explanation, Robert, of why it was denied.
I could read it, but I wasn't sure everybody really could. Another question I saw, I think Quentin Davis asked this, do the attributes have to be added individually each term for each section?
So that's a really good question. That's going to depend on your institution process. Some courses will be designated HIPs no matter what section, right? And if that's the case, the registrar will likely put the attribute on at the course catalog level. So it would be something you probably, if the attribute's gonna be assigned at the course catalog level, then you would not have to use this tool to add an attribute because your department or your associate dean or dean would have made a decision that that will be on at the course level. I did want to, I saw the ask about being on SSA DETL. Yes, as soon as it's approved, the attribute appears in SSA DETL.
So, Lynn, just to make sure I'm absolutely clear on your last answer. So if a course is not identified as a HIP at the course catalog level, that you're looking at section by section. So basically, if we're trying to qualify individual faculty for the specific course sections they're teaching, you would need to enter it in each semester.
That's right. You would go into the dashboard and request through this tool that the attribute be added to your specific section. Did that answer, Bruce?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
As you can all imagine, making a change like this is one that's going to take time, and we're going to be patient with it. And Lynn, Cindy Taylor from Georgia Best, the whole team that's worked on this have been putting a lot of energy into explaining this, socializing it, working with registrars and ITS departments. So as we move along, it will be adopted by your ITS departments, and then you'll have the opportunity to at least do some testing with it. And then after that, we want to move on to actually using it and recording data. A big picture part of this, I just want to go back and reiterate this, is that you can all imagine how important it is. It's not just for you, but not just for individual faculty, but for institutions, for the system office, then for all of those folks we work with outside of the state. If you take that circle and bring it even wider, regionally, nationally, whether it's foundations, they all want to know what the data is, and there's obviously good reasons for that. We want to see that we can actually prove, address, and discuss what it is we're doing, all of this hard work. It would be really an incredible shame if we did all this work to not only improve HIPs dramatically in the state, make them more equitable, and then also inculcate them into the universal pathways that we're creating, but then we had no way of actually discussing it, right? So that is an absolutely critical part, and that's what we're hoping the CAD will do. On the long run, the CAD will do this itself, but in the short run, I think if you think of how it's been modeled, that probably, I hope, gives ideas to you as to how, using the process you already have, you can make some changes to maybe do it in a way that's a little more innovative or a little more consistent, or at the very least get the conversation started with all of the stakeholders. Because I know that a lot of folks that I've talked to are sending an Excel sheet to the registrar's office, essentially. Or they're actually just sending emails to the registrar's office right now, which I'm a big fan of emails and Excel, but on the other hand, it may not always be the most supple. It may not be a system that really does a job of including everyone in the process the way this tool will, and also making certain that the process continues on if a critical faculty member takes another position, for example, which has been one of our bugbears in the past with trying to follow attributes from year to year. I also want to, one last thing I want to say, because this question's come up a lot. We're not looking at this to make comparisons between institutions. That is not the point here. I said it before and I'll say it again. The point is to do this at scale across the state. And that's where we're going to focus our information. So, we want the actual data you have, and we want it to be as accurate as possible. Any other?
It looks like someone's got their hand up.
Okay.
Jasmine Brown.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Brown from Middle Georgia State University. Had a quick question. I was asking about the, will we get an explanation? Say in the explanation, other than being clean, that we can tell that maybe there's a misunderstanding or they don't fully understand. Is there going to be eventually a process where we can, I don't know, appeal or come back, or is like the no, since they are the approver?
That's a really good question. As it's designed today, and Cindy Taylor, feel free to correct me, once you get the email that it's been denied with the reason, you can always go back and request again, but there isn't a comment box. I do know another institution that I've been doing some work with individual institutions and their academic affairs folks, just trying to help them navigate the decision tree. And one of the items that another institution, it was actually Columbus State, if there's anybody from Columbus on the call, mentioned that really and truly, if something is denied or anything, there might be a need for a comment box when you're requesting something or sending it back. So I did take that back to the Georgia Best team. And the recommendation I received was for Columbus to open a change request, which that's part of the whole software development life cycle. You guys, this is the first version. As folks use it, enhancements will be made, suggestions will be taken, and it'll be improved, over time. So I did take that back, and then Columbus is going to submit a change request to ask for that. So if you, at your institution, it's in test environments, as far as I know, it's in almost everybody's test environment. But you definitely want to, reach out to your registrar and the Banner project lead to see if you can try it out in that test environment. And I know some of the schools that are in what is called Banner Managed Services, which is where ITS takes care of your Banner environment. They are going to have the CAD in their production environment soon. And I do have a list of institutions that plan to do the implementation soon, and some that are actually some institutions actually already have a software solution. And so they're going to evaluate what they're currently using against the CAD and then, make a decision. So there really is a decision tree that exists about next steps for this implementation.
I want to thank you again, Lynn, for helping us understand this and making this something that's easy to chunk up and follow, because CAD's going to be, I think, a huge game changer, but takes just a little bit of attention to understand what it's all about. I'd also like to turn things over for a bit here to our faculty development leaders, to Jeff Galley and Denise Demese. They've been listening in, they've been presenting, obviously listening in, taking in all this information. No, you haven't been sleeping. I've been watching you, Jeff. But I would like to give them the opportunity to come back to you to ask what are some of the things that you're pulling out of this that you feel you would like to address now, and they could also be part of a follow-up that we'd like to do probably in early November, to touch base with you again, find out what it is that would be, the parts that you would like to have addressed going forward. And actually, really, I'll just turn it over to you and let Denise and Jeff do their magic.
Denise?
Hey, y'all. So Jeff and I are faculty developers, right? And one of the things that we do is we try and help you to improve student success, student learning in the classroom. But one of the things that faculty developers are really good at is taking great ideas from you and sort of amplifying them and sharing them. And actually, Quentin Davis said in the chat, and she was talking about sharing plans for the implementation. But this activity that we're going to do is in that same spirit, because we can all learn from you all so much. So there's a lot that you're doing in the classroom now that can inform others. And so when we're looking at, let me share my screen. A HIP is not a HIP if it doesn't have the essential elements. And we've talked about those before. As a reminder here, so here's the high impact practices, 8 key elements. And this is one of the things that is really emphasized in that course that you all will be enrolled in through Momentum U. Is to really make sure that these high impact courses are high impact courses. And in order for it to be high impact, it has to have some of these key elements. Now, you may have other classes that are not necessarily a HIP that also has these key elements. For example, we always talk about reacting to the past, a very high impact situation, but may not necessarily or not on AAC&U's list of high impact practices. So just because it is not on the list doesn't necessarily mean that it is not a high impact practice. So going back to our elements here, let's say, okay, there's my mouse. We're just going to look at 2 elements with you all and hear some from you. What are some ways that you have implemented some of these in your classroom? So the first one we're going to talk about is reflection and integration. And we know that this is asking students to make connections to help them see the bigger picture. So not only connections within the course, but outside the course, maybe between courses they've taken in a sequence, outside the discipline, connections to their lives, connections to future careers. There's so much that we can do to help them see the bigger picture and get perspective. So what we're going to ask is in the chat, and I'll give you a minute to type because, you know, we're asking a lot here, but in the chat, how have you integrated reflection and integration into your courses, into an assignment? Just give us an example. And the idea is to share something really cool and creative that you've done, but also to give other folks in the room here some ideas. And another, just to sort of broaden their scope when they're helping folks decide whether or not these are high impact practices, just to get more ideas. So in the chat, how have you done reflection and integration in your class and an assignment? And if it was associated with a HIP, which HIP was it associated with? So I will stop talking and let you all respond. Okay, so I see them rolling in now. So the first one, Joy says, using blogs in our study abroad as a way for students to reflect on each of the activities and assignments. I love this. And this, Joy, is actually going to be relevant in our next essential element that we're going to look at too. Simulation in healthcare. Reflection papers during internships, so important. I see a lot of things about internships. Let's see, students gather, share, and lead a dialogue about local data along with solutions to the wicked problems around those. Then they share the dialogue summary with local community leaders. This is a part of a deliberative dialogue service learning project. This one too is going to be relevant for our next one, so I love it. And see, this is the thing. So sometimes people say, well, how many key elements do there need to be? And often, and there's no number, there's no magic number, but often they are themselves integrated and overlap. It's sort of like a big Venn diagram when I think about it. All right, let's see. Brochure about country and compare with US. Okay, so I'm guessing they pick a country to focus on and then compare it with the US. Let's see, reflection journals in 2 different HIP courses. Excellent. Okay, so I think these are great examples of how to use reflection and integration. I think most people who use reflections have found that guiding questions are super important for students, especially when they're starting, because otherwise they tend to report but not necessarily reflect and make connections. So guiding questions are really important when we're helping students learn how to reflect. Okay, so the next one that I chose is public demonstration. And as I mentioned, I saw a bunch of those in your comments already. So when we think about public demonstration, and it actually also goes really well with real world application, which is another one of the essential elements. So again, they kind of flow into each other. So public demonstrations can be blog posts, websites that students create. It can be videos, informational pamphlets or brochures. It can be co-presenting at a conference with you, or presenting at a maybe undergraduate research conference. So lots of different ways that we can have our students show their work through public demonstration. So again, in the chat, let's see what you all have done. All right, so some of these are coming in. For undergraduate research, we require a significant written assignment and then provide them with the opportunity to present their research at the annual UGA symposium. Great. And then also fund them to present at national conferences. That's amazing. Let's see, poster sessions. Yeah. These are really authentic assignments, right? And these are the things that our students share with their parents and their grandparents and their friends. I mean, they're really proud of these. These are, it's not like, you know, I wrote a paper for my professor and my professor read it and I got an A, yay. But, you know, you don't show that to your roommate. You might show the grade, but you don't show your processing and understanding the way you do with a public demonstration. Like these are things that live on past turning this into a professor. Let's see. Gordon State honors contracts is to require presentation of a project or paper at a conference or symposium. That's great. Submit content to film festivals and conferences. My students use their posters to facilitate job interviews. Oh, I love this one. Doing science demonstrations in boys and girls clubs. When my children were in elementary school, they often had UGA. We live in Athens. They often had UGA students coming in to do stuff like that. It's the highlight of their day. They loved it. Excellent. So these are great examples. I love this, Bernard. Watch Cat in the Hat videos in ISCI class and reflect science learned from the videos. I used to do that too. We used to call it the Wile E. Coyote science or physics, Wile E. Coyote of physics, because you know he could run off a cliff and just dangle before he fell, and how misconceptions from cartoons, at least when I was a kid, those were the cartoons we watched. Those misconceptions can linger. So these are just 2 of the 8 elements. And hopefully you all read some of these and got some good ideas about how to incorporate them, but also how really any course could be made more high impact by incorporating some of these elements in. And I will tell you, it's just more exciting. It's more exciting as an instructor. It's more exciting for students when these things are in there, and it does have a lingering effect. Jeff, did you have any thoughts to share?
I was just itching to share something here, but I didn't want to interrupt. So blending these somehow seems to work to greater advantage or impact, and that it happens naturally. I mean, these 8 are not checks. They're just like, as you already know as you've shared. So at one of the courses I taught at Oxford College of Emory was a memoir class, and we focused on Jobs, Steve Jobs, Alice Walker, other professional memoirs. But in a service learning component, we arranged for students to interview senior citizens at a local senior citizens home. And the idea, service learning, connect those interviews to the content of the course, the memoir. And so what we ended up doing, and this happened almost every semester, we used Lulu, or one of the free presses, to create a 80-page book with individual essays that here are 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds taking on the view of an 80-year-old. And so the idea was, what are the challenges that you face when you're writing your own life? Similarly, what challenges do you face when you're writing another's life? So the service learning was both real world application and the public presentation piece at the same time. So 2 or 3 of these, not all 8, too much to do, but as it happens, adding on another layer of enrichment in an existing high impact practice, it just adds another layer of learning for the students. And it's fun.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just look back here, because performance expectations set at appropriately high levels, check. I mean, definitely in your example, Jeff. Significant investment of time and effort, yes, right? Faculty interactions with faculty and peers, I'm assuming that they worked with you a lot when they did this. I mean, so, you know, this is a really powerful example. Thanks for sharing that, because it's not just, you know, we touched on a couple, but usually a lot of these things are involved in these really meaningful assignments and interactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we toss this over to Robert, unless folks had any other comments or thoughts to share.
Looks like they don't, and I want to say thanks, because that was illuminating. Appreciate all of the creative ideas there. That leads me into the very last piece, because I might actually be able to give you back 5 minutes of your Friday here. The last piece is that we've talked about the plan for the fall. We've looked at the pieces. Then we've had faculty development here, giving us an idea, more creative idea of how this can all be done and come together. So I would like for us to get back together again right about before the middle of November, so that we can check in how things are going with you. I know you're going to have to take some time to do the actual course, get your work together, but I'll send you out an invitation. We'll want to get back together again. And actually, what Denise and Jeff did here is closer to what I want to do the next time. Really, I want to hear from you now that you've got, you know the charge, and you know some of the possibilities, what it is that you're doing. There may be some issues you want to talk about, discuss, get some solutions from your peers. Which is completely understandable. Eventually, all of this will turn into one big learning community, which we'll get to next. But in the meantime, I want to give you a chance to do that. So I'll reach out for you there. In the meantime, I'm going to put in the last slide, which will have our email addresses. You can get a hold of us and raise your hand and say, hey, I feel stuck here. I need to get some more information. We'll do that. But then I'll also send you that invitation, and we'll get together and we'll share. And I'd like to see what it is you're coming up with, what you're doing, and what you want to share, and the questions that you have. Having said that, I'm going to share my screen, including getting rid of the low battery warning here. I am going to share my screen and say, I'll send these slides out again. You should be seeing again, this is the general plan for our work this fall. I'll send that out to you. I think that we can have a lot to share when we get back together again about how this process is going. And then you'll see there's a list of folks to shout out to if you have questions. And having said that, I want to see if there are any last questions from today. I appreciate all of your time, and I know it's hard to do this. It's hard to do it any day of the week. Appreciate you here on a Friday, and I want to know if we can answer any last points before you get to move back into getting ready for your weekend. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of the comments. I think that our team here, I want to thank again our entire team that's presented. You know, we're doing, I think, as a whole in the state, fantastic work. It all depends on you more than anyone, the faculty. And I just want to say thanks. Keep it up, and let us know if we can help at any time. We're ready to jump in. And having said that, I'll be right back in touch, and we will let you move on and prepare for your weekend. Thanks, everybody.